What's going on, people? This is Derek J407, and I'm here to give you my thoughts on WWE Fastlane 2019, live from the Quicken Loans Arena in Cleveland, Ohio. Of course, the hometown of The Miz, and not a lot of other good things other than The Miz. But, it was the home of a pretty good show, the last show before, WrestleMania next month. I enjoyed it overall. I knew going into it, it did feel pointless. I mean, I knew with all the big matches that they add to the show, it still felt unnecessary. I mean, you already had Elimination Chamber. There was no real need to have WrestleMania. Fastlane right before WrestleMania. But, overall, top to bottom, I thought it was a pretty decent show. A lot of really good matches. A lot of story developments heading into WrestleMania. And, it's hard to complain about too much, but there is stuff to complain about, don't get me wrong. But we'll go ahead and just start from the bottom and work our way up on this show. Start with the kickoff. There was a backstage segment with Kevin Owens getting interviewed, and he got interrupted by the New Day, who basically gave him their blessing to go out there and compete for the WWE Championship against Bryan. Spot that was originally for Kofi Kingston, but Kofi shook his hand, and they looked like they were pretty good. But then, while the New Day were back there, and Kofi was kind of, talking to Ian Woods, a random person, like an assistant or whatever, comes up to Kofi and tells him that Vince would like to see him in his office later, right then and there, to talk about the WWE Championship situation. So that played into later on in the night, but this led right into the kickoff match with Rusev, of course, Nakamura and Rusev taking on Big E and Xavier Woods. Nothing really on the line, but they did have a really good match that the New Day won with the up, down, down on Rusev. This led into the main show, where we opened things with the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match, the Usos defending against Shane McMahon and the hometown boy, The Miz, of course, with his dad, George Mizanin, at ringside in the front row. Pretty good opening match. I think it was better than their match at the Royal Rumble, but I can't really remember much about that match, but this one was pretty good. The biggest spot in this match was one of the Usos was propped up in the corner, and Shane was on the other side on the top rope, prepared to hit the coast to coast. But right above where that Uso was, there was another Uso who was up on the top turnbuckle, and Miz was laid out in the middle of the ring, so he threatened to go for a diving splash. So there was basically a standoff here, and it's a game of chicken. Who's going to go first? Who blinks first? And it was that particular Uso who dove off first, but then Shane came down and collided right into him, so both crashed and burned. A little bit later on, Miz is getting encouragement from his dad at ringside. Everyone's down, and Miz is getting encouraged by his dad to go up top and go for a splash. So he goes up there, he hits a good-looking frog splash, but unfortunately it was blocked. When he came down, that particular Uso, I think it was, I want to say it was Jimmy, got the knees up, blocked it, and turned it into a roll-up to get the win. So the Usos are still the tag team champions, just like I figured. What I did not figure was what happened afterwards. So Miz was helping Shane out of the ring. Shane was showing he was kind of groggy and had a headache or whatever. They would go over by Miz's dad, they give him a hug and, get their hands raised and all that kind of stuff. And as Miz is leaving, he's walking away from where his dad's at. Shane's still there, and Shane, out of nowhere, just clobbers Miz from the back. Just starts kicking him and stomping on him and all that kind of stuff. He goes over to Miz's dad, who just a few moments ago he slapped hands with. He gave him a high five. But goes back over to his dad, puts his hands in his face and grabs him and starts yelling at him and just beats the piss out of the Miz right in front of George, who showed mild interest, a lot more interest than he did many years ago when we first saw Miz's dad, and Randy Orton beat the hell out of the Miz right in front of him. Showed very little emotion back then, but this time he showed some mild interest. For a second there, I thought he was encouraging Shane to beat up the Miz, never going that route, but we didn't get that here. But Shane is the one who turned heel. I think everyone and their mother thought it would be Miz, because I think most people agree Miz is a far better heel than he is a babyface, but that's not the direction they wanted to go in here. I guess they like Miz being a babyface, that, or they just wanted to swerve everyone and turn Shane heel. But we know Shane can be entertaining as a heel too. Cocky little shit he was back in the Attitude Era and many other moments in his career, so he can play the role well. But I don't know. It's gonna be a tough sell for me. But obviously this sets up a match between the two of them at WrestleMania, and I'm interested to see where it goes and if Miz's dad plays a factor into it. That's why I wanted Miz to be the one to go back to being a heel and have his dad be like his lackey, his manager. But that's not the case here. But we'll see how things play out as we lead into WrestleMania. Up next was the first of 3 Elias concerts. This one, he mocked what happened to The Miz and made a LeBron joke. It really wasn't all that entertaining. Speaking of not all that entertaining, the next match was Asuka defending the SmackDown Women's Championship against Mandy Rose. The same woman is Asuka, who tapped out the Royal Rumble winner and 1/3 of the first ever women's main event of WrestleMania, Becky Lynch, just about 2 months ago at this point, and has barely shown up on TV recently. And when she has, one of her appearances was her getting pinned by Mandy Rose to set up this match. And unfortunately, this match was not all that good. Mandy, she has improved as compared to what she was when she first started, but this really was not that good of a match. But the finish saw Sonya Deville. She was looking under the ring a few moments earlier in the match, but she didn't see anything. But then she got to a point where she looked under there again and found a kendo stick, and she lifted up the ring skirt. The ring skirt was still in the ring. It was kind of leaning in the ring a little bit, so she pulled that up and pulled out a kendo stick and was holding it. And when Mandy was trying to Irish whip Asuka into the ropes, Asuka reversed it. So Mandy Irish whips off the ropes on that side and ends up slipping on the ring skirt that was still in the ring. She slipped on it. Asuka hit her with a kick right to the temple and got the win. There was no reaction for this finish. It just kind of went over like a fart in church. The crowd did not care about this finish at all. And of course, after the match, Sonya was apologizing to Mandy, and Mandy just didn't want any of it. So looks like they're on the verge of Splitsville, but they've been teasing that quite often ever since the Royal Rumble, and maybe even before that. I figure they might get a tag team title match first before they officially split, but yeah, the split's coming at some point. And at this point, I have no idea what the hell Asuka's gonna do for WrestleMania. There was rumors of Lacey Lane. I guess Nikki Cross could be an option too. Who knows? But hopefully she gets something important, because she just feels like an afterthought. Even the commentators pointed that out. She's been overshadowed by the Becky, Ronda, Charlotte stuff. So hopefully she gets something to do. We get another backstage segment. The New Day meet up with, at least Woods and E, meet up with Kofi, who was standing outside Vince's office. Said he'd been waiting out there all this time. They barge in. Vince says he was the one who was waiting on Kofi. But then E and Woods, they say that they say to Vince that Kofi has been the one waiting. He's been waiting for 11 years, and they try to plead their case to him. And then Vince looks like he agrees. And he announces that a triple threat match will take place on this show for the WWE Championship. And it'll take place right now. So Kofi rushes out. He goes out to the ring. The crowd gives him a huge ovation. They announce a triple threat match for the WWE Championship to happen right then and there. But then a ringside official or whatever goes over to, what's his name, Greg Hamilton, the ring announcer, and informs him that the title match will take place later on in the show, and instead the match we're getting right now is a handicap match with Kofi Kingston versus The Bar, Sheamus and Cesaro, and that both Sheamus and Cesaro will be allowed to be in the ring at the same time. And Vince, when it was originally a title match, he told the New Day that they were banned from ringside, so I guess that carried over here. And the fans shat all over it. They booed the hell out of it. There was even a "this is boring" chant at one point. They just beat down Kofi. Kofi had a few hope spots in there, but at one point he took out Sheamus and was going for a move off the top rope, but got caught in midair with an uppercut by Cesaro. Cesaro held him up, hit him for Sheamus to hit him with a bro kick, but that was not enough for them. They wanted to punish him some more. Big E and Xavier, they tried to come back out to help him, but they got attacked in the entranceway by Naka Rusev, who came out there and beat them down. Meanwhile, back in the ring, Sheamus and Cesaro hit Kofi with a double white noise to pin him and get the win. So they are just furthering the story for Kofi to get the big championship match at WrestleMania. And just having Vince throw all this crap at him, all this mud and dirt and all this crap to build him up as the sympathetic underdog babyface. Something that was similarly done to Daniel Bryan, and something that's currently being done with Becky Lynch, albeit in a very convoluted, messy way, but I'll get into that later. So, yeah, New Day got killed here. Up next, Elias came out for another concert, part 2. This time he mocked Kofi and made a Cavs joke. Moving on, we got probably the first great match of the night. It was the Raw Tag Team Championship Triple Threat match. The Revival defending against Bobby Roode and Chad Gable, and Ricochet and Aleister Black. And since I don't see any other opportunity for me to mention it, my thoughts go out to Tommaso Ciampa, who just had successful neck surgery last week, but that surgery will keep him out of the TakeOver New York and WrestleMania shows next month, and that sucks because you have to know that the big 2-year-long storyline with Johnny Gargano was going to get paid off on that show. Sorry if that's a spoiler to you, but it doesn't matter now. But yeah, it really sucks. He was in the prime of his career. Well, I don't know if it was the prime of his career, but he was on the hottest run of his career, was main roster bound and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it sucks, but it happens sometimes. But yeah, that's that. As for this match, it was great. It was a fun match. Everyone shined at a certain point in time, but Ricochet, among others, shined the brightest. He was a little rough in some spots. There was one point where everyone was on the outside except for Ricochet and Scott Dawson, and that's because Ricochet was going for a Hurricane Rana on Dawson off the top turnbuckle onto everyone on the outside, but it got a little messy and they both kind of landed on the ring apron instead and then just kind of tumbled on to everyone else. So that was a little messy, but Ricochet made up for it. A little bit later on, he was up top on the ring on one side, but meanwhile on the other side of the ring on the outside, Rude was beating down Aleister Black. So Ricochet, being the quick on his feet person that he is, runs right across the ring and dives over the top turnbuckle onto Bobby Roode. And I thought that was a really cool spot. But while doing so, Chad Gable tagged himself in, got in the ring with I believe it was Dash Wilder, and started to mix it up with the Revival, but it eventually led to him getting hit with the Shatter Machine and the Revival retaining their titles. After the match, Bobby Roode tried to attack them, and he got a little bit of an upper hand on them, but Aleister Black and Ricochet instead laid them out, and it ended with Ricochet hitting the 630 on Dash Wilder. So the NXT guys, well, all these guys are NXT guys, but the fresh NXT guys were the ones to stand tall, and I imagine this will lead to some even more multi-team match at WrestleMania, maybe a gauntlet, I don't know, but I figure that's what this is leading to. And if that wasn't enough of a crazy multi-man match, we got yet another one up next. It was a fatal 4-way match for the United States Championship. R-Truth, I'm sorry, I was about to say Cien Almas, but that's not his name anymore. Just Andrade, Rey Mysterio, and the new U.S. champion Samoa Joe. He won the title in a 4-way match, including all these people, just the previous week on SmackDown. So we were supposed to get a match between Rey and Almas on the kickoff, but they changed it and added Truth and Joe into it, made it a 4-way for the U.S. title, and put it on the main show. And as upset as I was to not see another Rey Mysterio Andrade match, at least they made it onto the main card one way. And this was another really good match. I liked the match on SmackDown more, but this was really good. Rey Mysterio was probably the highlight of this match. He hit a lot of crazy Hurricane Ranas. At one point, he hit a double Hurricane Rana on R-Truth and Andrade. And a little bit later on, Andrade was up on Truth's shoulders, and Rey dove off the top turnbuckle and hit Andrade with a Hurricane Rana right off of R-Truth's shoulders. So I thought that was really cool. Andrade at one point hit a corkscrew dive onto the outside onto Samoa Joe, and Rey yet again with a Hurricane Rana. So all cool stuff. R-Truth, he's been doing this gimmick where he was doing the U.S. title open challenge, saying that John Cena was his idol, his hero, and all that kind of stuff, and that he has been using his moves, his moveset, his 5 moves of doom kind of stuff, and he did that same thing here. Hit the 5-knuckle shuffle. Was going for it on both Andrade and Joe, but Andrade moved, so only hit it with Joe. Eventually, Truth and Andrade got cleared out, so it just came down to Joe and Mysterio. Mysterio got Joe in position to hit him with the 619, which he did. But when he was going for his dropping the dime, his splash, Joe moved and then rolled over and got Rey into position for the Coquina Clutch, for which Rey Mysterio passed out to, and Samoa Joe is still your reigning United States champion. His first run as a champion on the main roster, and it's off to a success so far. So, good stuff. Up next, bad stuff. The Women's Tag Team Championship match. The first ever defense of these newly crowned Women's Tag Team Championships. Sasha Banks and Bayley defending against Tamina and Nia Jax. And when you hear the names Tamina and Nia Jax, expect botches to happen, for which we saw plenty in this match. There was one point where Tamina had Sasha on her shoulders and she was going for a move where she threw Sasha up for Nia to catch her and hit her with a Samoan drop. Only when Tamina threw her up, Nia caught her, but was dropping her too. And not Samoan dropping her, but literally dropping her, and lost composure and had to regain her composure to hit her with a proper Samoan drop. A little bit later on, Sasha tried to dive to the outside, but got caught by Tamina and Nia, only they didn't really catch her, and she kind of did get Tamina down. They were both supposed to catch her, and they kind of slipped on that one, so not pretty. But Bayley did her own tope through the ropes. Tope. I said toupee, Jesus. Did her own tope through the ropes to get them all down. But the finish came where Nia was going for a powerbomb on Bayley, but Bayley turned it into a victory roll and got the roll-up win. So, for the first time ever, Sasha Banks successfully retains a championship, and all it took was for someone else to win the match for her. So, good for her. Unfortunately, this was not the end of things, because the heels attacked both women post-match, attacked them around ringside, and it led to a face-off between Tamina and Beth Phoenix. Of course, Beth Phoenix has been commentating for months now, and she was a guest commentator out at ringside for this match. She got in Tamina's face. She was very upset with what Tamina and Nia were doing, and Beth unloaded and punched Tamina and started to, go after both women. But then the numbers game caught up to her, and Nia and Tamina were beating her down, put her back in the ring, and beat her down some more, and this led to Natalya running out to try to make the save. She got the best of them for a little bit, but it led to Tamina laying her out with a super kick. So the Samoan women stood tall, and it sure does look like we're leading to a multi-women team match for the titles at WrestleMania, with Sasha and Bayley against Nia and Tamina again, and Natalya and Beth Phoenix. And I imagine a possible fourth team would be either another team on the main roster, a team from NXT, or two legends, such as Trish Stratus and Lita, or the Bella Twins. My guess is this will be a four-way tag team match, and it'll be the three teams I mentioned, and that fourth team will either be Trish Stratus and Lita, the Bella Twins, or from NXT, the Sky Pirates, Kairi Hojo, Jesus, I used her Japan name, Kairi Sane and Io Shirai, which the two of them against Sasha and Bayley is a match I want to see at a future TakeOver show, or at least an episode of NXT. But if they can get them on WrestleMania, that'd be good too. But I'm not thrilled to see Tamina and Nia still in a position to challenge for the championships, but what are you gonna do? Up next was the originally planned match for the WWE title between Daniel Bryan and Kevin Owens, but instead it was kept as a triple threat. So Vince announced earlier that it would be a triple threat match tonight, and he fulfilled his promise. But instead, the third man was Mustafa Ali. We saw him return from injury, an injury that kept him out of the Elimination Chamber, which prevented him from getting a shot at the WWE title last month. He came back from that injury this past week on SmackDown and helped out Kevin Owens against Daniel Bryan and Rowan. So he was out here, and the fans didn't want any of it. They didn't, drown him in booze, but there was a lot of Kofi chants, we want Kofi, and all that kind of stuff, and it looked like they were going down the path of shitting all over this match, and I'm thinking, you got Daniel Bryan, Kevin Owens, and Mustafa Ali. There's no way this match is going to be anything short of good. And luckily, despite all the Kofi love, which did exist throughout majority of the match, these three guys worked their asses off to get the crowd back into things and invested. It did help that the commentators mentioned and acknowledged the Kofi chants, so they anticipated it and they planned on it, and they knew it was going to happen, and it's all playing a part in the story. The fans played right into it, so good on them. But yeah, these three guys, they busted their asses to make sure the fans paid attention to him, especially Mustafa Ali. He took his own little beating in this match. At one point, he got drop kicked hard off the top turnbuckle and landed on the outside onto the barricade, and that just looked brutal. But he had his own spotlights throughout the match. At one point, he had a Spanish fly from the top turnbuckle on Daniel Bryan. A little bit later on, he was trying to kill Bryan. He hit him with a 450, but Bryan was on the ring apron, so he hit him with a 450 on the ring apron. Owens and Ali worked together to take out Rowan, who was out there on the in the corner of Daniel Bryan. At one point, Owens did a over the top rope dive onto Rowan, so took him out. And one of the scariest parts of this match was Ali hit from the ring, the top turnbuckle, hit a diving tornado DDT onto Daniel Bryan and spiked him headfirst right onto the floor outside. And when Bryan went and grabbed his head, I got scared for quite a few seconds there, because we know the stuff with his concussions and all that kind of stuff, so that was very scary. But luckily he was fine. Back in the ring, Ali and Bryan are fighting some more. Owens got taken out by Rowan, so it's down to Ali and Bryan. Ali looks like he was going for a dive, but he had his back turned, so when he, launched himself off and faced Bryan ran right into him with a running knee. So a running knee in midair, and that finished off Mustafa Ali, gave Bryan the win, so he retains the WWE Championship. I think it's pretty clear all roads are leading to Bryan and Kofi for the title at WrestleMania. It's just a matter of how we get there at this point. Up next, Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, where if Becky wins, she gets added back to the match at WrestleMania for the Raw Women's Championship with Ronda Rousey, making it a triple threat match. A match majority of people did not want to be a triple threat and were perfectly fine with it being Becky and Ronda, but gotta get Charlotte in there, I guess. And we all know that Ronda has turned heel and is breaking kayfabe kayfabe's dead, so she resuscitated it long enough to break it again. And she's been doing her own little thing, which it's fine. The little internet diary vlogs or whatever, they're fine. But can we just not have people talking about how fake the show is during the show? Not saying that Ronda did that necessarily. That kind of stuff has been relegated to her social media. But like the stuff on Raw this past week with Colin Jost and Braun Strowman, with Colin, the dude from SNL who does the Weekend Update with Michael Che, the white guy. He was saying to Braun Strowman, is all this real? And Triple H, he cut a really good promo on Batista, but then he said, oh, this is not my character and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, we can do without all of that. So Ronda's been doing that, and it's like, if you want to play the heel, that's fine. I prefer you in that role, but can you not talk about breaking the script and fake and all that kind of shit? But whatever. We had this match here, this convoluted mess just to get to this triple threat, and it continued here. Of course, Becky, she's been selling this knee injury for an eternity, it feels like. And it played into this match. Charlotte basically worked over her knee the entire time, was kicking Becky's ass. And Becky had a few hope spots, but for the most part, Charlotte Flair had her beat and was on the verge of beating her. She locked her in the figure 4, was about to bridge it into the figure 8, but then Ronda Rousey ran out and got in the ring and punched Becky right in the chest. Referee rang the bell for the DQ and awarded the victory to Becky Lynch, and that is what gets Becky into the main event of WrestleMania. So after Becky won the Royal Rumble, got suspended for refusing medical attention, got reinstated after apologizing to Triple H and Stephanie McMahon for slapping both of them. She apologized, got resuspended for an even longer period of time, showed up with a crutch to random shows to beat up both women, and got arrested, got charges filed against her, and led Ronda Rousey to give up her championship just because they refused to reinstate Becky. And then Stephanie reinstates Becky, and not only reinstates her, but drops all the charges against her, and not only that, but puts her in a match against Charlotte for this show to be contested for the Raw Women's Championship, to which Ronda, I combined Ronda and Ronnie, Becky's name for her. Ronnie came out and said that she didn't really give up her championship. And that led to her getting her belt back, and then Stephanie making this match instead a match where if Becky wins, she gets added back to the match to make it a triple threat. She gets added to a match that she won the right to be in when she won the Royal Rumble. It's like you have a destination you're trying to get to, and you have a very easy, simple way to get there, but they just have to make it so complicated. They had to make it so convoluted, such a drag. It was just so unnecessary. But we're here, the triple threat women's main event for WrestleMania, and I don't doubt it'll be a good match, but one, it's not the match I wanted. I wanted just Becky and Ronda. And two, the way they got there was just so unnecessary. But what matters now is the next few weeks leading up to it, and hopefully they can make up for all the bullshit that we've gotten up to this point. Hopefully stuff can start making sense again. Finally, Elias's last concert, and he made a Browns joke. Then he was talking about how he wasn't interrupted and he got to complete his concert. This brought out Lacey Evans, who's been doing this gimmick where she comes out and then just immediately leaves. That happened here. She came out and then left. Meanwhile, back in the ring, Elias is still in there, but he gets laid out with an RKO out of nowhere from Randy Orton. But apparently Randy Orton wasn't the only one who had in mind to come out there and interrupt this thing, because as Randy Orton was getting ready to pose, AJ Styles appeared and he hit a phenomenal forearm onto Randy Orton to stand tall. So that puts some juice into this feud heading into WrestleMania. This is basically a guaranteed match to happen at WrestleMania. There's not really much else for either of these guys to do, and they've been relegated to backstage segments for the past few weeks. So all roads lead to a match at WrestleMania. And then finally, the main event, a 6-man tag team match. Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley, and Baron Corbin against The Shield. Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, and Roman Reigns for the very last time. You had Michael Cole all night, and especially in this match, mentioning how Dean Ambrose, his contract is coming up, and he's not re-signing, and he is leaving. Seth Rollins is going to be focusing on the Universal Championship match he has with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, and Roman he's back from leukemia. You know, he's in remission, so he's back, but he has no real direction right now either. So that they were playing the story like this is the last time we're going to see the Shield team up together, and despite what a lot of people feel about these Shield reunions and seeing the Shield together in general, it was really cool to see them have what could possibly be their last match. That is, if Ambrose doesn't resign, which, with all the mentions of how he's not going to resign, it makes you all think that he probably will. So, but this was a really good match, a really fun match. Yes, probably the first time in a long time I've said a match involving Baron Corbin was fun, but it was a lot of chaos, especially down the stretch. Ambrose, Rollins, Lashley, and McIntyre were all fighting in the crowd, and then all the way by the area where the pre-show panel set was. At one point, Ambrose dove off of the pre-show panel desk that's there. He dove off of it onto McIntyre and Lashley, got caught by the two men, but Rollins, from some higher platform, dove onto all of them to wipe them all out. Back near ringside, eventually everyone got there. The heels were clearing the Spanish table, the Spanish announce table that is, and they were targeting Roman Reigns, but Rollins and Ambrose came in and made the save. Rollins laid out Lashley with a curb stomp on, I think it was the German announce table, so he laid him out, and or maybe it was the American, but Lashley's done. Spear to Baron Corbin on the outside, and then they all target Drew McIntyre and hit him with a triple powerbomb through the announce table, the Spanish announce table. They surround Baron Corbin in the ring. Corbin gets laid out with a super kick from Rollins, Superman punch from Roman, dirty deeds from Dean Ambrose, and as they're revving up and getting the crowd amped up and all that kind of stuff, Rollins lets out a very meme-worthy chant, I'm sure. He says, "Let's one last motherfucking time," to which was bleeped out. But they laid out Corbin with the triple powerbomb and got the victory. So, the Shield win in what could possibly be their last match, and it was a good one. Say what you want about these Shield matches and these Shield reunions and all that kind of stuff, but they know how to have great matches, and this one was no exception. This was an excellent match. And, like I said, I am not convinced this is going to be the very last time we're going to see the Shield team up together. Even if Ambrose does leave, I think Ambrose will probably return to the company at some point. And as far as this being the last time we see the Shield together doing their pose, which they did, and Rollins got emotional and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like that's probably going to be the ending of WrestleMania. Or at least a moment at WrestleMania, not the ending. But if Rollins beats Brock, I'm sure Roman and Dean will come out there either to help him win or come out there after the match and pose with him and celebrate with him and all that kind of stuff. But still good. Like I said, overall, I thought the show was good. Not everything was good about it. Especially the stuff with the women. You had 3 women's matches and none of them were all that good. But some of them were building up stories that will play itself out and hopefully get paid off at WrestleMania. You had some really good matches in there. The Raw Tag Team title match was really good. The U.S. title match, the Shield 6-man tag, like I mentioned. The triple threat for the WWE title. And even the opening, the SmackDown Tag Team title match. And even with the Shane heel turn, which I'm curious about, it was still good. So, all roads point to WrestleMania weekend. You have TakeOver, the New Japan ROH Madison Square Garden show, and then of course WrestleMania. So until then, I will talk to all you later.